Hi everyone, I'm Jason Jurtich, and this is the Mobile Philosopher. In this video, we're going to see three types of mini tripods that you can use for large smartphones or phablets, like this Nexus 6, which is a 6-inch screen, and the iPhone 6s Plus, which is a 5.5-inch screen. These three, the first one is a Glif. It's called Glif, which is a rubberized semi-tripod, missing the bottom here, but we'll explain that. We have the Kenu Stance, which is good for both iPhone and micro USB put And then we have which is called a Joby, which is it's a mini tripod. And then we have the Joby holder here, as you can see. So let's look at all three of these guys with the respective smartphones. First of all, we have the Glif here. The Glif is the one I use the most just because of the fact that this space right here it's precisely so that you can have your cell phone at a slight angle here, holding it like this. And it's awesome, especially if you have to get up constantly at the office. You can have it like this. You can angle it like this. It'll keep on going. So very, very nice. And you can have it at almost any angle that you want. So that's the reason why they have that part there. This part here is so you can put the smartphone like this and hold it in so you can attach it to any tripod you want. It can be a professional tripod or something as small as this, and it'll stick up just perfectly fine. And that's why this one is actually pretty darn cool. Now, in regards to, besides putting the tripod on either end, you can put it here or you can put it here as well. Also works perfectly fine if you put it on this other side. You can put it like this. So both sides of the Glif will work perfectly fine in putting the iPhone or Nexus 6. Now, if I take this out, I'll get him off too. We're going to explain here. This wrench comes with the Glif. And basically, this is to make these things open or close in accordance with what you need here. Now, this one doesn't come out very much, but this one does come out much more. Though, if you go too far, it's just going to pop out completely. So if I keep on twisting, as you can see, it'll pop right out. So you can only go so far with this one. And basically, the Nexus 6 is about as big as you're going to get. Now, the only unfortunate thing is the Nexus 6 can't go in the normal way, which would be like this. It goes in like this because of how it's shaped. And you have to be very careful with the buttons because the buttons, unfortunately, the way Google designed it was that the buttons almost went in halfway. So first of all, this is going to cover the screen, but you can still use it to take pictures and whatnot with the mini tripod here. But it will cover the screens. You have to take that in consideration. And it's not going to open up anymore. So you can tighten this guy so that the Nexus 6 does not go anywhere whatsoever. You can get this fairly tight, so there's no way it's going to come out. But again, because it covers the screen, that's a little bit of a drawback. And outside of that, it's actually pretty good. Now, in regards to Nexus 6, to keeping it up like this, it's another story. Because the Nexus 6 is so curved here, it simply does not stay put in the Glif like this. It makes no difference how far up or down you go. It's not going to work vertically, and that's a big disadvantage for this guy. Now, if you have a case that's more squared here on the sides, then it'll work perfectly fine. That's all you need, just something more square. But when it's curved like this, it's not going to work. On the side, it'll work perfectly, as you can see. There's no problem there. But vertically is pretty much out of luck unless you change your case. So as you've seen now, it works much. This guy works much better with the iPhone 6s Plus, but it will work fine with the Nexus if you need something like this to take pictures and video. And if you change the case, then you should be able to use this bottom part down here. So that's pretty much in regards to the Glif. And again, this is the one I use the most because of the fact that at the office I can put them in and take them out in a constant manner. It doesn't affect anything. And with anything else, I can put this in my pocket. And if I need to put it on a tripod, then I just pop it on. So that's the awesome thing about this guy. Wrench, as long as you fix it at the beginning, you shouldn't have to carry it around with you. So that's just a one-time thing and it should be set. Let's go to the next ones, which are these guys here. These are the Kenu Stance. And like I said before, it works perfectly fine with the micro USB, which is one version, and then you have the Lightning, which is another version. So you have to buy these separately, obviously. So in regards to the Lightning one, you stick it inside the area here. And then with that, you can move it around. and you can put it like this. So the ball here is actually not as sturdy as I would have enjoyed. I think this, if you pull this in and out constantly and move this around, I think within about a year this is going to wear down. So I wouldn't expect too long of a lifespan for this guy. But outside of that, he actually is pretty nice because he's the most aesthetic and compact, and you won't feel it in your pocket. If you pull out the legs like this, then it'll work out pretty fine like this. You have to make sure that the phone, because of how heavy it is, it goes directly in front of the middle leg here. Otherwise, it won't work very well. If you try to leave it like this to the side, for example, you get to a certain moment and he'll fall down because the ball is just simply not tight enough in the socket here to hold up a smartphone this big. So, and besides that, as you can see, it wobbles around a little bit if you try to touch it, and it's not the strongest thing. So if you're going to need to take something that's fine-tuned in regards to picture and video, probably not the best thing to use. But if you're just going to watch a movie, or if you're going to use this with a Bluetooth keyboard, this will be completely awesome because of how compact it is. So again, that's the Kenu Stance, which, like I said before, if it wasn't for the fact the ball was a little bit too loose for bigger smartphones, I would have chosen this guy over everything. But again, even there, pulling this and putting it in and pulling it out constantly is probably going to wear this down too. So unfortunately, of all the ones that I'm going to show you today, this one's probably not going to last as long as the other two, but it is definitely the most aesthetically pleasing and compact. As you can see, we'll do the same thing with the Nexus 6 here. We're going to pop the green guy in here, and as you can see, same thing, it'll hold him up. Though it feels at this angle, I can still slightly feel that the ball is just barely making sure that the Nexus 6 stays up here. Okay. And if I go like this, again, it'll be fine if you're going to type. The leg has to be directly behind it because this guy is extremely heavy. Here he stays pretty much okay. But if I'm angling him down to a certain amount, there you go, he's flying down there. So you just have to keep that, take that in consideration when you're using this guy. And that unless you leave him here and you don't move him around, probably not going to be the best thing for you. It depends on how much you have to move your phone around. So as you can see, these work out pretty well as long as you don't have to put them in and out constantly and move them around. So now we have the last one, which is the Joby one. Joby one is a spring-loaded one. As you can see here, he goes in and out fairly quickly, so there's no problem there. If we put him on his stand, these two, like I said before, can be bought together or separately, and I will share both links below the video. And put this guy in here, and as you can see, you can put him in and pop him out. Again, because the Nexus has the buttons almost in the middle, slightly more complicated to do this, but you can get as close as you can to the buttons without covering them up. It's going to be slightly heavy on this side, but either way, if you can, he's pretty sturdy on the bottom once he's tight and whatnot, so that's okay, and you can pull him around because the ball here is much tougher than the balls on these guys. So they'll hold a fair amount of weight and movement without having any problems. So this is awesome for taking pictures and video more than anything else. And because you can pop them in and pop them out, that's fairly good as well. If you take the iPhone, you can see the same thing. Works pretty well. So that's pretty awesome. Now this is another story completely when you want to go vertical. So if I want to have the phones vertical like we saw with the other ones, it's going to be a difficult story because of the fact that I have to first close the legs here. And the legs have to be, you have to push this as far in as possible. Otherwise, if you try to leave it out, it won't stay up. But if you push them in as much as possible after they're closed and put the angle as much as you can, then when you put the phone in, it'll barely stay in because of how the cases are. See, for example, here, this is getting lucky, because normally this thing would start sliding out because it's spring-loaded and the spring is not strong enough for something this heavy. This right now, I'm getting very lucky that it's staying like this because normally it stays at an angle, a slight angle, or it just simply pops out. So if I do this again, let's just put it in. As you can see, it doesn't stay in. You have to move this around in a very particular manner until it pretty much stays where you have to get it. So this is not something you're going to be putting vertically in and out in a quick way. It's not going to work like that. And if I put the Nexus in here, as you can see here, there's a slight angle, and the iPhone will have that happen too. So you have to move it around just in such a way that it'll actually stay. But again, it's not the most secure thing. It does wobble around a little bit, and therefore I would say that this is probably not the best thing to use for vertical, because you might end up all of a sudden, if you hit the table for some reason, this could all of a sudden just flip over. So just take that in consideration, that for vertical work, this is probably not going to be the best in the world, but for horizontal work, it's perfectly fine for both phones. And the thing here with the Joby one is that the tripod is the same for all of them, but this actually comes in 3 sizes. This is the large phablet smartphone size, and it comes in 2 other sizes. One is small tablet size, so you can actually get one that's even longer, or a smaller one, which is for smaller phones like the iPhone 5. So you can get this in 3 sizes, and both on its website and on Amazon, usually you're able to choose which size you want. You just have to be very, very careful you choose the right size, otherwise you'll end up getting one that's not the one for you, and you'll have to return it. But outside of that as well, this entrance here is exactly the same as this one, and both of these can be put on a professional tripod without any problems if you so choose to do so. So those are the mini tripods here, as I mentioned. And again, these can be sold separately, so I will put those links under the video. These as well, on the Kenu website, you can get either one of these depending on your cell phone. And the Glif website as well, I will put there. And if you guys have any questions or doubts, or if I missed something here in the video to clarify how these cell phones work with these tripods, please put them in the comments below and I will try to answer it. And if this video has helped you, please consider subscribing and even donating if you would so wish to have more of these videos in the future. Thanks a bunch. Take care.